Hello and welcome to this video by Mayer's Teaching Institute on the topic of lenses. We will be working on the introduction and the ray diagrams associated with this topic, and we shall end this session with some of the formulas involved in lenses and light. So, we have studied light from the previous standards, we have studied mirrors, we have studied some concepts. We've studied and understood what is refraction of light. However, in this topic, we are going to see the nature in which light travels through lenses. And therefore, let us understand one of the first and the most important questions, which is, what is a lens? So it is any transparent medium bound by two surfaces, something that's a very textbook definition, but in a more detailed term, we could say it's your spectacles or your magnifying glass. However, the lenses can be of two types, a concave and a convex lens, which could be defined as we can see on our screens. So when we have the lens thicker at the center compared to the edges, the lenses with both the spherical surfaces on the inside is called as a concave lens, while it's the other way around, it's puffed outwards in the center, then it is called as a double convex or simply a convex lens. So these are the two types of lenses that we have, and we will be working on in this chapter, and we will be understanding how do they work. But in order to understand it, I would like you to visualize this. I would like you to look at a convex lens like it is made up of two circles like this, which are intersecting at some point that gives us the representation of the convex lens. So therefore, each of these will have their own centers. So what I will do is I will draw a principal axis. Now, what is the principal axis? It is an imaginary line that passes through the centers of the curvature of both these circles. So it is passing through the centers. You can see the centers highlighted at the point C, and this principal axis is passing through the center of curvature of both the spheres. Therefore, this accounts to the fact that we have two radiuses for these respective curvatures, and that is called as the radius of the curvature or the radii of the curvature. And we would define this as a part of the sphere where the surfaces are a part of this lens. And the center is the center of the sphere whose parts form the surfaces of the lenses are called as the center of these lenses. And therefore, we have two centers and two radiuses. However, I would like you to make a note that the focal length is always half the radius of the curvature. So therefore, we could draw the focus or the focal length, the focus point, which we denote as F1 for circle 1 and F2 for circle 2 at the center there. And therefore, we get the respective focal lengths. Now, since the center or the radius is double of it, we could regard this point C, the center of the curvature, as 2f1, that is twice f1 and twice f2 for its respective circles. And therefore, all the ray diagrams involve the labelings as 2f1, f1, f2, and 2f2. So therefore, the principal focus is basically where the light rays parallel to the principal axis are incident on a convex lens. They converge to a point on the principal axis, and this point is called as the principal focus of the lens, which is f1 and f2 for each of these curvatures. However, the optical center, the point inside the lens on which the principal axis to which all light rays pass without changing their path, is called as the optical center. It exists right in the middle of the lens. It is right inside, not demarcated right now. We will see the demarcation in the ray diagrams to come. Now we need to understand two important concepts of what is a real image and what is a virtual image. So we have put this as a distinguish. Now, basically real images, that if we talk them from terms of mirrors, or we can talk them in the terms of a lens. You can go through the presentation that highlights this. You can pause this video and go through this distinguish. However, I would like to focus on looking at it from this perspective of a diagram. Now, I would like you to think of it like you are wearing specs. Light enters through the lens and goes into your eye, and therefore, what you see is real. What is falling on your eye screen is real, and therefore, in the real image for the lens, the convex lens below, we can see which is the real image. While if it is reflecting from a convex lens, now obviously from a lens, reflection is not expected. Therefore, if it does happen, we would call it to be virtual. It is imaginary. And however, for a mirror, in a case of a mirror, reflection is something that is obvious, and therefore it becomes real on reflection. But however, if it is formed on the inside of the mirror, it is imaginary and hence would be called virtual. Hence, lenses and mirrors work in opposites, and I would like you to remember it like this. Like mirrors are meant for reflection, hence when reflection happens, it is real. And in the case of a lens, if it passes through the lens, the side in which the image is formed is called as the real side or the real image. Therefore, virtual is obviously the other way round. Now, there are three rules to drawing the ray diagrams, and the three rules constitute to three different approaches. In rule number one, when the incident ray is parallel to the principal axis, the refracted ray passes through the principal focus. In the second condition, we see when the incident ray passes through the principal focus, the refracted ray is then parallel to the principal axis. That's rule number three. And in rule number two, we have that's when the incident ray passes through the optical center of the lens and it passes without changing direction. Keeping these three rules into account, we will be studying our main ray diagrams in this video presentation. So now we shall study how the different images are formed by a convex lens for different positions of an object. So when we look at it, we see that we can have our object either placed at infinity, and we get a small dot at f2 as our answer, where the image will be formed. We can have the object beyond 2f1 and have the answer, the image, between f2 and 2f2. We can have the object at 2f1 and we find that the answer is at 2f2. We can have the object between 2f1 and f1 and the object is beyond the image is formed beyond 2f1. Sometimes the object could be placed at f1, but the answer is formed at infinity. The image is formed at infinity. So with this, we just observe the first 5 positions. The closer we come to the lens, the further the image goes away from the lens. At the same time, the image increases in magnification. So, however, when we come to the last one, that is when we place the object between F1 and O, we get a virtual image. We just understood what is a virtual image, and you see the object has its image formed behind itself. That is, behind the object, the image is formed and it is quite magnified. So let's have a look at the ray diagrams individually to understand this far more better. But in order to understand this, I've made a summary chart of the various positions of the object and the various positions of the image. But it is important for us to understand that each image bears a nature of its own kind. And I call it my 6-coded bad word, the rid, rid, ris, rim, rim, wem, where R stands for real, V stands for virtual, I for inverted means upside down, Then we have E for erect, we have D for diminished, we have S for a same sized image, where the image and the object are the same size, while diminished will be smaller, and M for magnified would show an image bigger than the object. Therefore, we get 6 different kinds of natures depending on the 6 positions of the object. So if I have my image somewhere at infinity, we have our ray diagrams, the rays of light coming straight to the lens, and all of these will go and pass through the lens and converge at the focus, at the principal focus, forming a single point dot at f2. And therefore, we find that the image formed at f2 is a real, inverted, and diminished, called the rid. However, please do not use this codes in the exam. It's only for something for you to remember. If the object is placed just beyond 2f1, we start by first drawing the ray of light parallel to the principal axis, which then passes through the lens, refracts, and passes through the focus f2. At the same time, we have another ray that passes unrefracted through the center O, and where these two lines intersect would be the point of our image, A dash and B dash forming. But however, you observe it is smaller than the object, and therefore we say that it is a real, it is on the real side, it is inverted, and it is diminished. This is something to make you understand how it looks if taken onto a screen. If the object is at 2f1, here, we have the first ray going straight parallel to the principal axis, passes through the focus f2 after refraction from the lens, and the other ray that passes straight through the optical center. Where the two lines meet, we will get at point 2f2 A dash and B dash, which will be our image of the same size. Real, inverted, and same size. This is how it visualizes. Real, inverted, same sized. If the object is placed between 2f1 and f1, the ray going straight to the lens, parallel to the principal axis, passes through the focus f2 on refraction from the lens, while the other ray passes through the center unrefracted. The point where they meet forms my image, which is beyond 2f2, and it is magnified. I want to show you two different types of diagrams. One, if the object is a bit closer to 2f1, the image is also a bit closer to 2f2. However, if the image of the object is a bit closer to the focus, the image goes much, much further away and is much magnified when it moves away from 2f2. So what my diagram initially showed was somewhere right in the middle, but these two diagrams at the bottom show two different positions. One where the object is a bit closer to 2f1, and the other where the object is a bit closer to f1. But in all the three cases, the object is placed anywhere between 2f1 and f1. And it proves that the nature remains the same in all three cases. If the object is placed at f1, the common logic goes that the ray, we draw the first ray parallel to the principal axis, undergoes refraction and passes through f2, the principal focus, while the other ray, unrefracted, passes through the center O and does not meet, but somewhere at infinity it is expected to meet and form our image at a very, very far distance, which is hypothetically unavailable right now. And that is how it would look a bit more technically. Therefore, we obtain an image, real, inverted, and very, very highly magnified. In the last case, our virtual case, I've already shown you how it's approachingly looking. So we have our object placed somewhere between the principal focus F1 and O. We draw the ray passing through parallel to the principal axis to the focus. It goes through the principal focus on refraction F2, but does not actually pass, but instead gets reflected backwards. Same thing happens when it tries to pass through the center O, gets reflected at the lens and forms its image behind the object, thus proving to give us a virtual, erect, and magnified image. However, if we have a concave lens, for whatever position of the object, we have only and only one nature, what I call the VED, virtual, erect, and diminished. which means the object and image will be on the same side. The image is going to be smaller and the image will be erect. So let's have a look at how it is. I have my object placed somewhere in front of the lens. Ray of light goes straight parallel to the principal axis, tries to pass through the focus but is reflected and passes through F1. Similarly, we try to make it pass through the optical center of the lens, where the two lines intersect, give us our image, which is a virtual erect and diminished image. This is how smaller images appear to the human eye. Now, however, we have some important formulae to remember and learn from lenses. One of the first being the lens formula. The lens formula. The lens formula is showing the relation between the distance of the object U, the distance of the image V, and the focal length F is called as the lens formula. The lens formula is the same for any given spherical lens and any distance of the object from the lens. It is, however, necessary to use the sign conventions properly, which we shall be speaking in our coming up slides in relation to the Cartesian sign convention. The next formula is the magnification formula, which can be related either from the height of the image and object or distance at which they are standing. So the magnification of a lens is due to the ratio of the height of the image H2 to the height of the object, or it is related to the distance of the object U and that of the image from the lens. So therefore, V upon U or H2 upon H1. Power of a lens, very, very important formula. A lot of objective related questions can come for this in your board examinations. The capacity of the lens to converge or diverge the incident rays of light is called as the power of a lens. And the power of a lens depends on its focal length, as we can see in the formula. It is found to be inverse for the focal length. The power is inverse of the focal length, and therefore P is equal to 1 upon F. The unit of power is given in diopters, while the unit of focal length is meter. Now, if we combine lenses in the cases of microscopes or in the cases of telescopes, the two lenses having focal length F1 and F2 are kept in contact with each other. The combination has an effective focal length given by the formula 1 upon F1 plus 1 upon F2, giving us 1 upon F as the effective focal length. So if the powers of the two lenses P1 and P2, then the effective power would be P equal to P1 plus P2. That happens only if I'm considering the power of the two lenses being used. So now let us understand the Cartesian sign convention. So according to the Cartesian sign convention, the optical center O is taken as the origin. The principal axis is the x-axis of the frame of reference. The sign conventions will depend on 5 important factors. Point number 1, the object is always placed on the left of the lens and all distances parallel to the principal axis are measured from the optical center. The distance measured to the right of the optical center are taken to be positive, while those measured to the left are taken to be negative. The distance perpendicular to the principal axis and above it are taken positive, while those below it will be taken negative. The focal length of a convex lens is positive, while that for a concave lens will be negative. That's all from the Cartesian sign convention. So thank you, everyone. I hope you liked this video. Please do comment in the comment box, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.